Well, welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And this is brought to you, as always, by my crowdfunded translation project, where I translate documents and texts that have fallen through the cracks, and people who want to see them come to light help me do so by making donations and spreading the word. Yeah, if you check out the links in chat, you can see where you can read the finished translations of the current project and how you can donate to the project if you are so inclined. So, I was thinking about, the whole Natalie Wynn ContraPoints thing that we were looking at yesterday and that I think we might continue with today. And I was thinking, the reason that it really sucks, that it's just particularly bad, even worse, I think, than the way she still, studiously avoided calling the genocide in Gaza a genocide. The way she called it just sort of casually, as if it were just an uncontroversial fact, referred to it as an example of a hopeless cause. And the reason I was thinking about, that really stuck with me last night, and I kind of put my finger on it sometime last night, because the thing about saying that a cause is hopeless is it's not the same thing as saying everything we've done before so far hasn't worked. It is making a statement, an inherently speculative statement about the future, that namely, nothing we might ever conceivably do would do any good either. And when you do that, you are basically giving permission to people to just not give a shit about a mass murder that could not possibly happen without US support. And that is just, that is fucked up on a completely other level. I mean, it was one thing when she was just silent for the the worst year and a couple of months of the genocide, because 2023, 2024 was, at least was what has been the worst so far. Since 2025, it's bad, but it's actually, the amount of killing has gone down significantly, and that has been relatively stable. So the time to really be getting the word out, if anything, was 2023, 2024, because that was the provisional height of it. And I say provisional because it could get worse again. The whole situation's kind of up in the air at the moment. Fuck knows what's going to happen. But it's one thing, you look at, I mean, to be silent about that. And since she was a political creator who was very much cultivating sort of a left-of-center audience, a left-leaning audience, that was already a choice, because it was something that everyone was talking about, not the online left. You don't get the kind of poll, sea change in the public opinion polls if just whatever the online left is the only one caring about it. I mean... Almost ready. You don't get but it's quite another thing to suddenly open your mouth about it and say things that suck. Like, I mean, she avoided calling it a genocide, and she got a lot of, in this one tweet that she finally said when she finally decided that she needed to say something. And, a lot of people pointed out, that she was using a notorious undercount of the number of victims and avoiding calling it a genocide. It was like, in a single tweet, you can, that doesn't automatically mean she doesn't think it is one, or that she's denying it. It could just mean that that's what she said off the cuff. But what she said now, it's very clear, A, she does deny it, and B, she also doesn't think it's something that people should give a shit about. And when you think about the fact that Miss Rachel, who, if anyone had an excuse not to say anything on this subject, it was somebody who is an early childhood education creator. She makes videos to entertain and educate little kids. That was so far out of her, what would generally be thought of as her lane. If she hadn't said anything, nobody would have noticed. I hadn't even heard of her, personally, but apparently she was kind of universally beloved amongst parents of small children, and she decided that she had to fucking open her mouth. And she has gotten no end of shit as a result of it. And Natalie Wynn in this whole time was just fucking hiding in the shrubbery and not saying a word about it. And now that she said words about it, it sucks. And saying that it's hopeless is the sort of thing that actually can do harm. Bonsoir, ça va. Ça va, et toi? Okay, so I thought we might kick this off with a little bit of the ass gold. He has a video called This Is Embarrassing, and I just love the idea that fucking Asmongold apparently feels that he's somebody who can talk about what is and is not embarrassing. So I thought we'd start out with that. And it's kind of related to the whole Natalie Wynn thing as well, I believe. Let me know, chat, as always, whether I need to make any adjustments to the audio. Here we go.
Oh my God, what is this? Let me look at this. Currency scheme that people are engaging in.
Mm-hmm. Would you steal from Whole Foods?
You want to go first? Well,
right, guys.
I'm pro stealing from big corporations because they steal quite a bit more.
Wait, his Asgold is shocked at this. Look at him, he's shell shocked. He's like, fucking hell, what's happening? Is he wearing a fucking bathrobe?
From their own workers.
If everybody stole from the corporations, then they wouldn't work.
Oh, then what do you mean they wouldn't work? As in the corporations wouldn't function? Or the workers wouldn't work because they were getting what they needed by some other means?
How could you be pro stealing? If people stole from the then
Yes, this is the Rat Man in his basement.
they wouldn't be. How could you run a business if people keep stealing the stuff out of the business?
Like, I have some bad news to you about how capitalism works, my dude.
I don't understand. Like, how is that? It's not sustainable. Like what is it? It's an insane statement. Yeah, you
well, like this is beyond the pale. Like the number of things that this motherfucker will say, just outrageous shit that he's cool with. But this, like shoplifting, Hassan says, yeah, shoplifting from big corporations is cool, and fucking Assgold is here like, oh shit, the world is ending. Game over, man. Hey, Riveroon.
Can't do that. I mean, I don't. Like what?
However, one thing that might even help your ethical dilemma is the fact that the automated process that they design, these companies know will increase shrink, right? So it's actually factored in. The lemons that you stole are factored into the bottom line of these mega corporations, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, there was like somebody did a post that got deleted. Apparently, this person was an asshole, and I forget his name. But the post was apparently classic, and it was pointing out, like, for example, if you want some coriander, some cilantro, you essentially have two ways of getting it at Whole Foods. You can go to the produce section, or you can get it at the salad bar for 1/10 of the price. Yeah, I know, like, out of all the things that he's freaking out about, this...
And what happens when it gets factored into the bottom line?
What happens when it gets factored into the bottom line is it was already expected, so they don't even fucking notice, actually. That's what happens.
Then that the costs get offset back onto the consumer.
The cost, like... Imagine making this statement in the year of our Dark Lord 2026, when we've seen that even when there's no fucking cost to offset, these companies will manage to find an excuse to just double the prices. Like the pasta that I eat a lot of pasta, so this is just the example that comes to mind. I went in the past couple of years from paying like $1.99 for a pound of it to fucking $3.75. That does not cost more. There isn't some new overhead. They got away with it. The retailers realized they could get away with it because people were getting used to ridiculous food inflation. Like this is, and then there's surveillance pricing too. Let's remember all these electronic price tags that show up everywhere. And part of what they can do with that, if they connect it to, like, you know, the various tentacles of surveillance capitalism, is they can change the price on you depending on just their assessment of who you are and what you'll be willing to pay for it. Well, I mean, I think actually Tyler Lorenz did a thing looking at this specifically around Instacart, and showed that depending on what cookies you have, the retail prices you will get charged for the same stuff will change on buying it on the same day. I mean, I imagine that there are things growing on him that could probably be used as like meilleur de pain, as some like sourdough mother.
This is so only a retard could have this opinion. No normal person could have this.
Like, of course, there's got to be some ableism in this.
And you have to be like an advanced retard to think like this. And you have to keep in mind, this is very important because...
okay, what's very important, Assgold?
Hassan, as we all know, grew up as a rich boy. He did. He grew up like a rich boy, and he was, riding around on horses, playing polo.
I mean, I don't know if any of that's true. He definitely did not grow up poor. Like, his family has some money, but I don't know about polo and shit.
oh, look at me, I'm a good boy with my special hat. You don't understand the way that poor people get money and they eat food.
Who the fuck do you think is shoplifting food in the first place? Like, who do you think is actually seriously having any kind of dilemma about that? The people who have no trouble paying for it? Or the people who are like, you know, I gotta choose between fucking butter and, you know, butter and cereal for my breakfast or something like that. Who do you think is actually fucking having to make a choice there?
Let me explain it to you. There are food banks for people who don't have the income and the resources available.
Oh, wow. He thinks the food banks actually are able to cover everybody's needs. That is the opinion of somebody who clearly has never had occasion to use them. I personally haven't, but I know enough people who do, and I've paid attention to it. I mean, because when I was living in Britain, the demand for food banks fucking exploded because of benefit sanctions. Oh, wow. Yeah, River, so that is actually a thing? Jesus. Wow, that's wanky. Young Hassan on a horse. Dressed to playful. Wow, okay. Fucking hell. But the thing is that food banks are dependent on donations. And they're dependent on those donations actually meeting demand. And that does not always work out that way. And yeah, like, a lot of poor people are not relying primarily on food banks. Like, in the US, this is what SNAP is about. This is what fucking food stamps are about. You know, and there are a lot of people who are poor and are not broke enough to actually be eligible for food stamps, and aren't necessarily eligible to use a food bank either. So they're just having to buy shit and watch as, you know, ends don't meet. Like, shut the fuck up, Asgold.
That they can simply get that food for free, where it's accounted for, it's subsidized, and it's paid for, either by charities, churches, the state, or a combination.
Like, wow. So he thinks that food banks are the exact same selection, the exact same amount as you would get if you went into, like, whole paychecks.
So when you choose to go inside of a Whole Foods and you steal something from a Whole Foods, you are foregoing the existing structural socialist design.
Wow, food banks are socialist. Did you hear that? Food banks are apparently socialism.
Of food banks, of other forms of supplemental assistance.
Yeah, you know, and here's the thing. First of all, none of those things are adequate, and nobody should be actually held. You know, like, anyone who is supplementing that by other means, like, shut the fuck up. If you see somebody shoplifting at fucking Whole Foods, no, you fucking didn't. Like, seriously, shut the fuck up. But also, like, fuck Whole Foods as well. They absolutely charge through the nose on everything. They massively overpay. They screw over their employees. Like, working there, you're not necessarily going to be able to afford to fucking shop there. Like, seriously, fuck off.
That allow people to get food whenever they're poor. So the problem is that what you're doing when you steal something from a corporation...
I think he has less contact with society and real humans than the vast majority of extraterrestrials, actually.
Is you effectively increase their costs, which hurts everybody else inside of the actual paying...
You know how much fucking markup is on retail?
People inside of that corporation... And you are not using, and by the way...
God, I mean, that's terrible. You know, we are, like, affecting the overhead of Whole Foods shareholders, chat. I never thought of it that way. Like, I never really... Their overhead is going up, chat. Like, if you nick a lemon at Whole Foods, their profits are going down just the slightest bit. even if it isn't taken account, even if it doesn't show up in the accounting because they already assume that there's a certain amount of attrition going on. But that's terrible. The Whole Foods shareholders are the real victims in all this.
Out of these food banks, this is another thing people might not know. They throw away an excess of food every day.
No, you know, wait till you hear about fucking supermarkets, Askold. You know what they do?
So the entire idea that, like, oh, well, they're going to run out of food. Yeah, they'll probably run out of cookies, or they might run out of, steaks or something like that.
Wait, the food bank is going to run out of steaks. Wow, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you always you have to get to the food bank early if you want to make surf and turf. Yeah, they always run out of steak and lobster at the food bank. Because that's what everybody's getting is steak and lobster. Like, what? Have you ever been in a fucking food bank?
But they're not running out of carrots. Like, I remember when my mom went to the food bank and she got carrots, and she got, like, I don't know if I can... I'm really not kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's all built into this. And it's also built into the fact that they just keep on increasing the prices anyway. Like, there is no cost factor that accounts for the amount of food inflation that we've been seeing at the retail level. There just isn't. Nobody is experiencing that. And it turns out, actually, firms like McKinsey, Pete Buttigieg, help food retailers, supermarket chains work out how to price fix, work out how to gouge the fuck out of people, but just keep it, but avoid too much government scrutiny and keep it at a level where people will still buy it. Yeah, like, seriously, like, and and if it's like bread or something like that shit, they throw a lot of that shit out when it's still halfway decent. Like, you can, if you have like a baguette or something like that is a day old, and you just spray that up rather lightly with with just some regular ass tap water, and put that in the oven for a while at like 400 or so, it will be like new. Now, it might be a little bit crunchier on the outside, but otherwise it'll be like new. But a lot of these supermarket chains will just bin that stuff and then pour bleach and shit on it, specifically so that people will not take it. So, like, fuck them.
I'm not kidding. She got enough carrots to fill this entire box.
He thinks that's a lot of carrots. I've been to supermarkets where, like, not wholesalers, where, like, the default bag of carrots, if you buy them in bulk, would fit that box. Yeah, exactly. Don't get caught. Never getting caught is a thing never to do. And of course, I'm speaking entirely in the abstract about things that go on in Narnia.
This was in 2012, and so.
Yeah, I bet he still has the carrots in the box. He uses them as an alarm.
A gigantic amount of food. Did you eat them? Yeah, we ate a lot of them, right? And, like, we had stew and everything. And so, like, there is a massive excess of this food that's being given out. So when you forego the existing...
Well, okay, so he assumes, like, how long ago was this? Like, there is not always a massive excess of food. And not everybody can eat everything that's there. Like...
of
Shut the fuck up.
Like, nutrition assistance and everything, and you choose to steal from a corporation, you are doing something that is not only detrimental to the corporation, the workers, and also subsequently the other people.
Oh, how is it detrimental to the workers? Aren't getting a cut of that. The workers probably can't even afford to buy the shit.
People that are paying, but you're also foregoing an existing structure that is...
Does he know what foregoing means? He talks about that like there's like some, like it's morally wrong to forego something, but all it means is not to use it. And the thing is, I mean, if you're not using it, that means that you're not depleting their supplies.
Meant for people that have those problems. It is the most selfish, self-centered...
Why? Okay, wait. Why is it selfish not to use a food bank. I mean, I don't understand. Like, maybe he does not Does he think that people not always buying, not always getting stuff there that harms them? Like, a lot of these places have supply problems.
Stupid, short-sighted, and unnecessary thing to ever do.
Well, yeah, I mean, eating is totally unnecessary. Like, you can just sort of live off of the mold on your wall.
Never do this. Now, if you steal, I'm not going to act like it's the end of the world.
You kind of just were, though, my dude.
But the reality is that the reason why people steal is because they get away with it. And I think we need to spend...
The reason people steal is they get away with it. See, I would have thought it was because they want a thing and either they don't want to pay for it or they can pay for it. I mean, yeah, there's some people who will do all sorts of things just for the, like, thrill of getting away with it, but I don't think that's why most people are fucking stealing carrots.
Spend more time preventing people from getting away with it. This is an extremely toxic mindset. And whenever...
Oh, wow. Like, he's gonna tell us what's toxic. This is the guy who was shocked to get temporarily kicked off Twitch because he exceeded his slur quota. But he's gonna tell us what's toxic.
This mindset is done at scale. Any sort of distribution becomes impossible. This is why food stores close down. This is...
Really? Like, who? I mean, there's no evidence, actually, that food stores closed down because of this. There was an op-ed that claimed this, based entirely on an industry association's unsupported claims. But the available, it has been studied, like the Brookings Institution, as it turns out, not by any means like a radical communist place, just a very centrist neoliberal think tank, actually really looked into what actually causes the closure of, like, food stores. And it turns out, actually, it's always something else. A lot of the time, it's the rents being put up, actually.
Why a Dunkin' Donut shuts down in the middle of Chicago.
Wait. How the hell are you shoplifting from a Dunkin' Donuts? How's that even work? Like... I don't know, it's been a while since I've been in a Dunkin' Donuts, but last I checked, they kept all the food behind the counter. That's not shoplifting, that's armed robbery you'd have to do.
Because they keep getting robbed, or a CVS stops, like selling things in a New York or something.
Like, I mean, it says everything that he's coming up with all these global shades. Like, CVS... It's worth noting, another massive price gouger.
Or some other fucking high crime area in the LA area. Like
the LA area. A high crime area like the LA area or the New York area. Or, like, I don't know, the California or the Illinois area. The Pacific Northwest area. Like...
It's tremendously detrimental.
And they still end up having increased profit margins because they no longer have to pay the cashiers that they used to hire, as opposed to this automated system, knowing full well that...
Yeah, in fact, guess what? One of the things that can happen, if the auto checkout area results in an increase in shoplifting, is often that will result in them hiring more staff. So you're creating jobs.
People are still going to be able to steal a lot more efficiently, as a matter of fact, through the automated process.
Totally. Well, I was looking things up, and shrinkage is roughly equal internally as externally. Like, they expect it from their employees that they are sort of disenfranchising constantly.
Yeah. But what about the argument that
they are, I mean, like, yeah, employees steal stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and more power to them. If you're going to pay people less than it costs to buy the thing that they make or distribute, I mean, it fucking serves you right.
True. I mean, of course. even if they weren't disenfranchising those employees, they would still be stealing.
I mean, that's a weird use of the word disenfranchising. I mean, she's using it in a weird way, but Asmongold does not also does not seem to know what it means.
And here's how you know.
It's like she's trying to avoid saying exploit. That's the word that she means.
Stealing is not for necessity. There are a lot of people that do steal for necessity.
Oh wait, he was just saying that here was how you know that stealing isn't for necessity, and then he goes, oh well, so there are a lot of people who do. Well, if there are a lot of people who do, like, that totally undermines everything you just said.
But when you're stealing makeup, you're not doing it for necessity.
Well, and see, if he had ever, like, encountered, like, women, he would, or like, actually talk to one, he would know that there are lots of employers who will require you to wear it. And in fact, the courts have held that like, I mean, it varies. Different circuits have held different things. But, like, the 11th Circuit, last I checked, was really bad on this. And they say it's not even discrimination because it somehow is not an added burden to require, like, makeup and heels and stuff like that. Even though it is obviously an added cost that the employer isn't paying for. And also, like, again,
when you're stealing potato chips, you're not doing it for necessity.
Really? You aren't, like, going to eat them? Do potato chips not have caloric content?
When you're stealing shoes or hairspray, this isn't necessity.
You don't need shoes, Chad. Nobody needs shoes. Like, why would you do that? Why didn't you go barefoot?
Everyone just starts stealing wantonly from the self-checkout machines. Whole Foods will eventually raise the prices.
What do you mean, eventually? Eventually.
Yeah, chaos, full chaos. Let's go. I mean, look, I'm in favor.
Well, no, that's not what would happen. They're just going to have a police guard that stands there next to the self-checkout.
I mean, they already have somebody who stands next to the self-checkout. But, I mean, you were saying it's, like, bad for workers, but that's a job that is created by the fact that the technology that they prefer in order to avoid paying workers actually results in people being able to take advantage. So that's a job that's being created there.
And then they watch you scan the items. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's already what happens.
It's not going to be full chaos. It's not going to be a...
He was joking. Like, God, he was fucking joking.
And then you pay that police guard, and now the food costs more because they have to pay the guard. Like, that's not...
The food costs more anyway because they figured out that they can just keep on making it cost more.
It works. Like, this is not... This is... What's so funny about this is that it's like it's very one-dimensional in its thinking. Because...
I mean, yes, unlike the depth and dimensionality of the Asgold stream.
As you assume that the company is just going to say, I guess we lose.
I don't think anyone's actually assuming that.
No. They're going to put different little stickers on it. They're going to put beepers on it. They're going to lock it up.
They already do that.
They're going to have different things. Like, for
and actually, there are YouTube videos on how to defeat some of those things.
For example, at the Walmart that I'm near, I had to have the employee... I went to buy underwear at Walmart, and she made me...
I'm actually, like, somehow glad to hear that he at least at one point had clean underwear.
Tell her which underwear I wanted. She wouldn't let me touch it. And
well, now, why do you think it is that suddenly... Because a lot of that stuff wasn't behind a fucking, Raiders of the Lost Ark security arrangement until fairly recently. But maybe it's something to do with the fact that people are getting poor as fuck. Like, maybe the reason they've started to do that is that they realize that people are so fucking broke that they can't even afford fucking Walmart underwear. And so they were nicking it. Like, maybe you would solve a lot of these problems if people were actually paid decently.
And I said I wanted to check out, and she hand carried the underwear from the the underwear section to the fucking cashier.
Well, I'm glad it was in the underwear section. I mean, like, I would find it really weird if it was in, like, the outdoor grilling section.
And they gave it to the cashier. It was like, I mean, I'm in my 30s now, so, like, it wasn't embarrassing. But
I don't think very much is embarrassing if you're Asmongold. I think he has reached sort of a zen point where there's nothing that he could do that could possibly... Look, I mean, like, he's wearing his fucking bathrobe here.
like, if I was, like, 16, I would have been mortified by this, right? And so it's wild, exactly. And so why? Because they don't want people to steal it. Because people
are so fucking broke that they'll steal that. Like, nobody's stealing that for the kicks. Nobody is stealing fucking Walmart-ass underwear for the kicks. They're doing it, like, because they need it, because things get holes that are not supposed to be there. And so eventually you do have to replace it, and sometimes you don't have the fucking money.
keep stealing it. So what you're really advocating for is you're advocating for basically Walmarts to be turned into minimum security prisons.
I mean, from what I've heard from people who work at them, they almost kind of are. Like, the level of surveillance that you're under is actually probably more than some minimum security joints in Western Europe.
Because that's what's going to happen. In a low-trust society, everybody doesn't just get Walmarts, and they just give out food for free. No, they have everything behind glass cases, they have police guards there, they have armed guards, they have people watching you, they have everything. So the entire premise of this is just completely misguided.
Like, who's gonna spend that much money? You know how expensive a fucking armed guard is? Because you have to get them licensed by the state. There's all sorts of stuff that goes into it. That that means if that were true, you would be creating a new relatively high-paying job just by nicking some fucking underwear.
And if Hassan went to Walmarts, if he went to places that were poor, and if he grew up poor and he received food stamps and he went to food banks, he would know all of these things, and you would know.
Wait, okay. So he would know the speculative things that Asmongold is saying.
This is what this panel is it's three upper middle class or upper class liberals that are basically circle jerking each other for stealing lemons from Wendy's or Walmart or Whole Foods. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, that's terrible. They're like stealing lemons and bragging. Like, what citrus thing will be next?
I'm in favor of fast and free buses and also government-owned storefronts. And, two of those policies the mayor of this beautiful city is currently working on.
Would you encourage stealing in the same way from a Mamdani-run city-owned grocery store with lower prices? And why?
I would not. Because I feel like that's taxpayer-funded, and the prices are...
Well, didn't you already pay for it? I mean, how is it...
I mean, actually... that would be the preferable version of it, yes, but no, I mean, that's not how it works. Like, there are lots of taxpayer-funded things where you still have, like, a user fee. Of course, if you funded it fully, there's no reason you couldn't do that. Like, I mean, there's no if you just change the funding model completely and said, okay, well, you could have a system where it's just like everybody's taxes covers the operation, covers whatever they need from the place, except in order to avoid it just getting cleaned out, there's rationing, there's the limits on exactly how much that they figure out by one way or another if it's necessary. Like, that's the thing you could do. It wouldn't necessarily even be a bad idea.
Stealing if you already paid for it. I mean, see, this is the problem with this ideology, is that...
The problem with this ideology is that Asmongold didn't understand what things are and are not funded by the taxes that go to these like publicly funded grocery stores that are being proposed, and so he doesn't know the difference.
It's you can't allow somebody to use their own internal reasoning to justify when it's okay for them to do something bad. It's impossible.
This union labor and the prices are also adjusted regardless.
So if the price,
Well, like, what does adjusted mean, though? I mean, it ought to be just at cost.
basically, I've decided based off of 3 intangible, subjective things that it's okay to break the law.
I mean, actually, there were objective things. Like, it is objectively true that these companies are already taking a certain amount of attrition into account. Not just because of theft, but because of just breakage. Stuff gets broken during shipping. Stuff gets broken when it's being stocked on the shelves. So, like, to a certain extent, they are absolutely accounting for this in a way that it is not hurting their bottom line.
No, the world can't work that way. How can, like, what's astonishing to me is that any person can listen to this and think that it's not completely retarded. Any thoughts on video game piracy? Piracy is fundamentally different than stealing from a store. Let me explain the reason why.
Because he likes it.
Piracy is not stealing. It's on the spectrum of stealing. It's similar to stealing, but it is not stealing. The reason why it's not the same is because theoretically, everybody could have any sort of movie, video game.
This is the thing he does where he says a bunch of whack shit and then he actually says something that is entirely right. Yeah. I mean, in fact, legally, this is the distinction, too. Because the definition of theft in a lot of legal systems requires the intent to permanently deprive the victim of the property that you're taking. Well, if you can acquire it without depriving anyone of it, then it does not work. Then it isn't theft. But I mean, still, honestly, in terms of like a moral distinction, I don't think it exists, and to any meaningful degree.
Or anything else. The only reason why you can't have it is because there is artificial scarcity that's created for it. So,
well, what if that was true of food too? What if we produced way more food than ever makes it into retail? And part of the reason that we do that is so that these companies can charge way more money. Like, what if the entire system we live in was based on different forms of artificial scarcity?
The problem is that, like, and again, like, if you take this to its logical conclusion, if somebody was re-streaming Hassan's stream, the entire thing with no cuts, and then running additional ads on it, and then making money off of it, and then that stream was gaining popularity and hurting his popularity, I think that he would be upset about that. It would be damaging for him. So the reality is that when you're streaming, like, the expectation for piracy or anything like that is that the act of doing it or stealing can't multiply a...
Okay. Yeah, I mean, actually one of the most popular things like the Chavez government came up with in Venezuela was, I mean, I forget which misión this was. It was one of them. It started with an M. But it was these, in like working class neighborhoods, there would be these state-run food shops, state-run grocery shops that would sell all kinds of things, all kinds of basic goods, all the like food and stuff that people need at heavily subsidized prices. Like, extremely popular. It meant that all sorts of people who always had trouble putting food on the table suddenly had either no trouble or at least a lot less. I mean, it was a great thing, actually. And it was one of the things that was, in fact, targeted by the so-called U.S. sanctions. So now we're going to look at more of Natalie Wynn and Joshua Citronella talking about how much it sucks when people actually care about things.
Wonderful mayor, Zoran Mamdani, got elected. Like, he posted some picture of him with Bernie Sanders and AOC, and immediately, like, the faction of the online left that I'm
like. She tries to make this. I mean, she just calls everything the online left. Like, first of all, what is the online left? Everybody's online at this point. Like, it would be unusual. In fact, it is extremely unusual to find somebody who's totally not online. That is extremely rare in this society. And second of all, like, I mean, if you're going to say that this is some small niche group of the left that you're finding on Twitter and stuff, then you can't explain, like, the massive polling swings. Like, Israel is toxic waste in the polls now. That was not the case just a couple of years ago. For a couple of years, it was something that a lot of people did not have very strong feelings about. And now it's like it's an 80-20 or like 90-10 issue amongst like Democrats voters, where the overwhelming majority of their voters think Israel is horrible and don't want the U.S. to be supporting it at all. Like, you think that's just the online left?
Discussing here, the reaction was like, wow, like, I can't believe Zabron Mamdani would associate with these, like, genocidal Zionists.
Wow.
Right?
Well, I mean, I had no trouble believing it, because the thing is, DSA, the D stands for Democrats. And it is always, there's always a strong whiff of opportunism in all of that. Because what people have realized is you can get the endorsement from DSA and it comes with no accountability. Like, you can get endorsed by them, win a primary on the strength of that endorsement, and then you can just tell them to fuck themselves. I mean, that's what AOC did. And not only that, it is hard not to tell them to fuck themselves, because there are all sorts of institutional pressures pushing in the direction of telling them to fuck themselves. And there's basically no institutional pressure in favor of making sure that any of the things that you said you were going to do remains a priority of any kind.
And it's like, well, what did you expect him to do as an elected politician?
Have
not
no
ever
allies?
talk to any other politician?
Yeah.
Like, that's not how this works. I mean, and in some ways, like, what they are horrified by is participation in politics itself.
Yeah.
Well, yes, because capitalist politics sucks.
Because that means a kind of compromise of their virtue ethics. And I find it so preposterous.
Wait, okay, so not... thinking genocide is bad, thinking white supremacist ideologies are bad is virtue ethics, apparently.
Because a lot of these people also are claiming to be Marxists. But, like, so you would think Marxism is, like, based on some kind of understanding of, like, you know, material conditions.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Natalie. Here's the thing. It's like, just because you understand that material conditions make it likely that somebody in this fucking society who gets involved in the political regime of the society at any level is probably going to end up having to compromise even such a baseline position as not being in favor of genocide and white supremacism. That doesn't, you know, the conclusion from that is not that you say, that's okay. The conclusion from that is that the system needs to be destroyed and something new built in its place. And in the meantime, if anything good is to come out of anyone you, like, put in office, no matter how good they seemed before that, it's going to be because they are under constant pressure and they are, like, afraid of pissing off these wild bastards who got them elected and are going to make their lives hell if they sell them out. Like, I mean, the point of materialism is not to say, that's cool, you know, well, okay, yeah, capitalism does genocide, you know, what are you going to do about it? The whole point of it, like, surely she knows that quote. The point, you know, the philosophers have variously interpreted the world. The point, however, is to change it. Like, maybe that's the idea here?
But they're virtue ethicists. They're virtue ethicists slurping as Marxists.
Wow. See, if you think that politicians ought to be held accountable for what they do, that makes you a virtue ethicist LARPing as a Marxist. That is a thing that just came out of her mouth.
They're not materialists by any stretch of the imagination.
And it's very frustrating.
Wow, I mean, Joseph Citronella says that they're not materialists. I'm sure, based on the fact that they oppose things. Because apparently the materialist thing is to just be very blasé about it and smile condescendingly at anyone who says this is fucked up. We need to make this stop. That's apparently the real materialist way of doing things.
If they, not to harp on this, but like if they ever got into the position of power, it would mean the death of that subcultural identity.
Right. Well, see, that is why the whole point is to change the entire nature of the way that society is organized. Because, yes, that's true. That is the point. That you really cannot have any commitment to the working class and get anywhere in politics in this system. Because if you want to get anywhere in politics in this system, you're going to have to compromise that and sell out the working class. I mean, and you just have to understand that. But it's like what they're doing is not saying, therefore, this system sucks and it needs to be brought down. They're saying, therefore, you should just let it happen. Like,
it's actually their primary drive.
Yeah. So it's a kind of political like hipsterism, in the sense of like you like the band until it's popular, and then you can't like it anymore because the popularity of it is.
Wow, that's what's going on. It's you like the band. It's not you like the band until they stand for something that sucks, like say genocide.
Compatible with your self-image as someone who is outside of the mainstream.
God, I mean, I love how liberals will just refuse to even slightly engage with the positions that they think they're talking about.
Right.
Because she has this need. See, the whole thing, they want to just sort of psychopathologize it all. They don't want to say, well, maybe the reason that they are pissed off that, Mamdani, who had actually taken a fairly clear anti-Zionist line during the campaign to a great extent. I mean, I remember hearing there were things that actually, there were tells even then, but for the most part, it seemed fairly strong. But then to turn around and say, like, the NYPD chief who was just busting heads at the university encampments against the genocide, and people who actually supported arming Israel, and like Bernie Sanders backed the genocide, like refused to even consider the idea of a ceasefire until the Democratic Party themselves realized that they had to at least pretend to support one. Like, accountability is, so the issue is not, it's not just like until they become popular, it's until they do something that sucks. And like, what exactly does Natalie Wynn have a theory of change?
I like that quite a bit.
I'm sure you do. He's very pleased with himself.
Topic of the left-wing mindset. There is quite a discussion in the Saw movie, or in your video essay on the Saw movies, about a right-wing mindset that uses violence as retribution. What is the connection between this right-wing mindset and visible violence as retribution?
Well, I see the right-wing mindset, and my influence here is a cognitive linguist, George Lakoff.
Oh God, yes, Lakoff. This does not surprise me. Because Lakoff's whole thing is, he wrote this whole essay, very influential, about how the reason Democrats end up like supporting all this right-wing shit is that they don't know how to talk about things without right-wing framing on it. And he wrote this whole thing, and it was all like, look at these terms they're using. They need to break up the terminology so that they can like do something good rather than doing shitty things. But they're locking themselves into shitty things because of the shitty terminology they use. And the idea that actually they were using the terminology because it justifies the things they wanted to do did not cross his mind. So yeah, this does not surprise me at all.
moral politics,
Mhm.
where he argues that basically the understanding of the family and the role of parents is the microcosm of how people view politics as a macrocosm.
Yeah.
In other words, that how a family authority structure works is the basis for how people with different values see politics. So this book's from the 90s, but I think it still works
Is it
remarkably
like the father
well
is
to me.
disciplinarian?
Yeah, so the right-wing politics, as he calls it, strict father morality, and it's the idea is, yes, of a disciplinarian
coming home?
father. It's like daddy's
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
home, and he's eating his belt off. Right, and
Oh, he's getting his. I thought it sounded like she said, and he's eating his biltong, and I was like, well, okay, that's a neat thing to add. Why is he eating biltong? What does that signify?
that is, the way that people talk about Trump on the right is like, you don't have to be Freud to notice that, because they just say it. They call him daddy.
Yeah, they post memes about it.
They post memes about
Yeah.
it, and I think that he refers to the liberal.
It's like, does she ever get tired of superficially psychologizing all of this?
Value system as nurturant parent.
Yeah, there is something to what she's saying here, and the memes that she's talking about do exist. But there's more to it than this. Like, this is just this whole way of talking about it just depoliticizes the hell out of everything.
So the idea is that, like, the role of a parent or of a government is to nurture, to be compassionate, to provide, to,
The social democratic welfare state.
Social democratic welfare state.
Yeah.
Well, the social democratic welfare state is mommy politics.
The nanny state.
It's
Wow.
the nanny state, the mommy state in a way,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? And like Lakoff, he wants to insist that.
Okay, so what about communism, where there is where the goal is that there will be no state, no money, and no classes? Like, then what is that? Like, wait. Do you think that the idea is that it is people who want to have no parents? Like, there is a limit to how much you can do with this. But she's just very taken with the metaphor now.
It's like men can be the nurturer as well, but I think it retains its gendered coding, right? And I think a lot of the way that you see people respond very differently to the Democratic Party as opposed to the Republican Party has to do with the way that, like, the Republican Party is kind of their daddy, and so the expectations of how they're how they're supposed to act are sort of daddy expectations. Again,
like, what? Like, maybe the reason that there are different expectations is because the PR of the respective parties have made it clear, have encouraged people to expect different things of them. And, in the case of the Democrats, at some point, like decades ago, when they were scared enough to do anything good, they occasionally did some good things and have been dining out on it practically since. Like, it isn't just like fucking daddy versus mommy politics. There is history here. Like, is this like her only way to think about any of this? Gonna skip ahead. This is a section that is called Left versus Liberal.
Or something. There was a precursor to Gamergate.
Elevator
that
Gate.
What was it?
Elevator Gate. Is that
Elevator
what you're
Gate.
thinking?
Yeah. Was it Dawkins in an elevator with another?
Yeah, he sexually harassed. I think it was Rebecca Watson, actually.
Woman who was speaking at the conference.
It was Rebecca Watson. Was
Rebecca
the
Watson.
woman.
Okay.
And she posted this vlog after an ATS conference in which she described having been approached by a man who.
Oh, she didn't name.
No, she didn't name him. Who made an advance, in an elevator. I think asked her to come into his room for coffee, and she made a vlog where she said
how has the left changed within that time?
Wait, okay, let me back. And that is where I was going for. I clicked on the wrong thing. Now I've clicked a little bit too far ahead.
So there's an arc. Yeah, you can call it a pipeline. You can watch people move between these successive phases. How has the left changed within that time? We've been talking about this,
Yeah.
like, let's say 8-year arc. How has the left changed since you started making content?
In a lot of ways, there continues to be a fairly devastating fracture that is downwind of the 2016 Democratic primary.
The long 2016.
The long, yeah.
I mean, what fracture?
And that I think that the effects of that are still felt.
I feel like we're about to hear that Dems are the left. Like, that the fracture is between the leftists who wanted fucking Hillary Clinton and the ones who wanted Bernie Sanders or some... I feel like that's where we're going here. Hello, Tomas.
I had hoped that it was possible for there to be like a liberal left alliance. By 2024, it came to seem that wasn't possible.
Well, yes, because the thing is, unbeknownst to Natalie, who seems to manage not to really understand these things, I mean, it's like she's making an effort to remain innocent of any comprehension of what the actual stakes are and why people believe and act the way they do. But yeah, because liberals want to try to preserve a system that is moving ever further towards fascism, and leftists of the various stripes, I mean, if we're defining it the way I do, namely that the sort of baseline is opposing capitalism, yeah, understand that this is just going to keep getting worse until we actually get rid of this fucking system.
This, I think, to me, is a very black-pilling for me, because it seems like it's less possible to make a coalition than I used to. Because in 2017, I had this moment of optimism, right? I had been, full disclosure, I mean, I'm sure people already know this, but I was like a Hillary Clinton supporter.
I actually did not know this, but that explains a lot. I mean, up to including the fact that she refuses to call the genocide a genocide. Up to and including the way she avoids taking opposition to the genocide seriously.
In 2016. I mean, in part, not that I disliked Bernie. I did like him, right? But I thought at the time, I had worked on Obama's campaign in 2012.
I mean, it's worth noting, since we're probably going to hear about electability, that there were head-to-head polls between the various Democratic contenders and Trump, and the only one who actually was clearly beating Trump was Sanders in those polls. I mean, Hillary Clinton was throwing the election, just elevating her the way that the DNC did, just guaranteed that the election was going to be probably lost.
And so I remember just how, like I used to canvass, I used to do phone calls, and just to get people to want, I was like, we're trying to give you health care.
Yeah.
And
Hillary Clinton did not support health care.
it was like pulling teeth to get people to be like, oh, but it's socialism, and he's gonna make...
I mean, who's she talking to? Because if you look at the polling, the majority of the population have wanted universal health care, like universal public health care, single payer with no insurance companies in the mix for a very long time. So who the hell who's she talking
Death
to?
panels, and it's this Islamic communism, and it's what I mean, like just and we're talking about the Affordable Care Act, not at all a radical piece.
Yeah, which doesn't even give you health care. In fact, I mean, it's unpopular largely. I mean, if you look at the people who have a low opinion of it in the polls, when they're asked, which is not always, they say that the problem was it didn't go far enough. It left too much control for the insurance companies, which most people hate.
Legislation, right? But like people have been so like this like anti-socialist strain of American paranoia was so strong.
It isn't like, if you were telling people that you were going to get the insurance companies out of their lives, it would be a great sell. But instead, it was like you're being forced to pay money to the insurance companies, whilst the government is also subsidizing their marketing from taxes, and the insurance companies do not have any reciprocal obligations that they can't easily exempt themselves from. That is a much harder sell. But
I felt that Bernie Sanders could not win.
But Bernie Sanders was not he was calling for Medicare for all. which is, again, much more popular than anything to do with insurance companies.
Then Hillary Clinton lost. And that caused me to rethink things. I was like, well, okay, my intuitions may be wrong.
Yeah, I think they might have been. Like, maybe the issue was that you weren't getting the thing that people overwhelmingly say they need.
Because I would not have thought Donald Trump would win. Maybe I was also wrong about Bernie Sanders. And so I kind of moved a bit to the left then and felt like, look, we can maybe have a kind of leftist Democratic Party, and then AOC, like...
Yeah, except, I mean, what the lesson that also should have been learned right then and there was that the Democratic Party will not allow it. There are no democratic structures within the party. There is absolutely no way to hold the leadership accountable. The leadership has control over every single lever of power, and they can, I mean, like, it is openly... this isn't like some conspiracy or anything. You look at the rules as they practice them, as they openly acknowledge them in primaries, for example, and they're designed to ensure the leadership can get whatever result they want.
Emerge, and that was very promising in 2018. Then in 2020, of course, Bernie really lost the primary.
No, except he really didn't. If you actually look at the way the primary went down. Oh, hello, link spam. We're getting rid of link spam. Wonderful. Fuck off, link spam. Because if you actually look at the results when it was still a competitive primary, Bernie Sanders was in first place. It actually took all of the runners up, all three of them, dropping out at the same time and throwing all of their votes to the guy in fourth place, Joe Biden, in order to actually have somebody to kick Bernie Sanders out of first place. Like, literally, that is the level of manipulation that was necessary. When there was a competitive primary, he did really, really well. He did not really lose. The way, I mean, if primaries were carried out according to, like, the standards that generally apply to calling something a free and fair election, where the vote is cast all on the same day. No results are actually issued as long as voting is still going on. And everybody is entitled to vote on the same slate of candidates. Rather than a system that is designed to ensure that some people are going to have to drop out just because they can't afford it, because it means traveling and campaigning in one state after another, and after another, and after another, and it's not at the same time, and then the leadership can just tell people, okay, you're going to drop out and you're going to give your votes to the guy we want that nobody else seems to want. Like, I mean, this is just...
And I think that I felt like, okay, maybe this is not translating into electoral success so much.
Yeah.
And then by 2024, I felt...
He lost in a fair fight. He didn't get...
No, he did not. There's nothing fair about the way Democratic primaries are run. It was an absolute joke.
Swindled by the DNC.
He did, though.
I mean, I also personally think that...
I'm not even a fan. Like, anyone who listens to this for any length of time knows that I am not, like, a Bernie Sanders stan by any stretch of the imagination. But if you actually look at the primary, Joe Biden was nowhere. He was at the bottom of the serious contenders. And Bernie Sanders was on top until... Buttigieg and a couple of others, I mean, Harris had already dropped out, and then you had, and then all of a sudden, they all cast their votes, combined them to give them to the fourth place contender, Joe Biden, who nobody liked, and all of a sudden, that was it. And then, like, they campaigned as if, they made a point of, like, saying, Bernie Sanders is going to have a prominent role in this administration and stuff, because they knew that they had to actually make it look like they were offering something if they wanted it to actually go someplace.
Claims of him being swindled by this DNC are somewhat overstated.
Maybe not swindled,
Yeah.
but like at least the institutional power in the DNC was so sizable and potent that the insurgent populist campaign couldn't overcome how much hegemonic power it had. They could pull different levers and get people to show up in South Carolina and this kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I mean, they didn't even need to do that though, because they had already done, had these 3 candidates drop out, because it took 3 whole candidates, the second and third and fourth. Two. It was 2 or 3. I forget. Doesn't matter. Either way, it took the 2 candidates in between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden dropping out jointly in order to close the gap between them, let alone actually put Joe Biden on top.
And, I mean, I think that's. I guess I get a little bit annoyed when people overstate that, like, it was rage against Bernie, and that, like, well, Hillary Clinton did win the popular vote by more than 3 million votes. Like, I mean, yes, Hillary Clinton has spent her career building institutional support in the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders just showed up that year, basically.
I mean, he didn't. And the thing, and of course the thing is, he's never been a serious contender. That's not what he's there for, which is why you can actually see that for the most part, he will avoid, even when his criticisms could be directed at both parties, and he's nominally independent, it never will be. It'll be something that both parties are doing, and and he will only say, "Oh, you know how the Republicans are doing this?"
He's an independent in Vermont.
Right.
Not really, though. Like, the Democrats don't run a candidate against him.
So
they don't fund them.
Your politics progressed after that that failure in.
I wouldn't call it progressing.
I got disillusioned with it, especially when it came to 2024, and I felt that it was basically like desperately urgent to vote for Kamala Harris, and I was.
Wait, okay, so that was desperately urgent. Remember the genocide, she didn't feel any sense of urgency about. Like, she didn't even say shit about it. But it was desperately urgent to vote for Kamala Harris, but not to get her to take a position that would increase the likelihood of people actually doing that.
I was getting a lot of aggressive pushback on that idea from.
Well, yeah, because she was committing genocide at the time. A lot of people felt very strongly about it. A lot of people still do.
So I felt kind of politically isolated by feeling that it was important to vote for Kamala Harris. I felt politically isolated.
By feeling, I think more than anything, by feeling that it was unimportant to do everything possible to stop the genocide that you didn't say shit about until months later.
And now I kind of just don't know what to do, and have kind of just adopted this sort of stoic, almost like submissive or defeatist attitude towards politics.
I mean, I would say, like, deciding that in 2024 the big issue was not stopping a genocide that the U.S. was committing, but trying to get an extremely unpopular candidate who was actively alienating everybody whose votes she needed elected. I mean, that feels much more defeatist than anything.
But I hope that things will improve, though I don't necessarily expect it. I think that there needs what I see as the main problem on the left is there's this gap between the online leftist podcast sphere and like the liberal middle-aged women who canvass for the Democratic Party.
Oh, well, so what you're saying is the problem with the left is there's an ideological difference between the left and people who aren't on the left. Like, so that's the problem with the left, is it? I thought that was just necessarily, like, that's how different ideologies were. Like
the normie vote?
Yeah, the normie vote.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that it's like well-to-do white people are the normie vote is also interesting. I mean, you would think that at this point there would be some insight that that might not be the case when you look at the way, like, normies, like, just regular people are reacting to things like, I mean, Brian Thompson getting popped, or, you know, the 3rd precinct getting burned down and everything, that actually maybe that is not the normal vote. Like, I mean, that is the exact, you know, the suburban white woman was indeed what, like, Hillary Clinton tried to base her campaign on in 2016, and that did not work, because the thing is, most people, certainly most people who have any likelihood of ever casting a vote for Democrats, do not feel that America is already great, and, you know, that you know, the status quo is fine and it's just, like, staying the course or something. Like, this idea that no change is needed is not actually a widespread view, but the Democratic Party wants to do, it insists on it because that's what their donors want.
But there's like no non-normie vote almost.
You're telling me that like people in Middle America are not like Marxist, Leninist, Maoists?
I mean, yes, that is what I'm saying.
Huh.
I mean, they're not like Marxist, Leninist, Maoists.
Well, so, like, again, so what she's decided the problem is that there are ideological differences between different ideologies, and that the problem is the the problem is that the people who belong to the ideology that she does not adhere to ought to change. Like, I mean, she's decided for whatever reason to make herself the poster child for the center that cannot hold because nobody fucking wants it.
They have a lot of discords, I would think.
Like, the people who are, like, otherwise ideologically on the side that she's representing here would slag her off for being trans. Because their consultants have told them that slagging off trans people is a great idea. Or at the very least, throwing trans people on the bus is a great idea. So, like, seriously.
Despite the impression that you get in certain online spaces, I think that, like, Marxist, Leninist, Maoist ideology is probably off-putting to most American voters. Like, again, maybe things have changed a lot since...
Well, yeah, except here's the thing. And this goes back to the sort of defeatism angle that we were talking about yesterday. Because here's the thing. You can say, ooh, this might be off-putting to people, or whatever. And MLM ideology, I'm not specifically, that's their example. But here's the thing. If you've ever been involved in any kind of sales, you will have heard this. That people have not actually really meaningfully told you no until you have elicited and addressed their objections. The point is that somebody who has never heard of what, an anarcho-communist thinks about something, they may, just because they don't like the name anarcho-communist, or they don't like the word anarcho, or they don't like the word communist, have a negative feeling. But that doesn't mean that that's going to stay there if they actually find out what we think. And it turns out, actually, there are a lot of things where we would tend to agree with them on, or something like that. But that involves engaging deeply with people on, actual issues that affect their lives, and engaging with them in a way that potentially changes their minds and leads them to act in a materially important way. And she doesn't want to do that. Yeah, like, her horizon is entirely just, like, democratic electoral politics, and that is just increasingly sterile. So, so she's got nothing. And so she complains about the fact that not that there's something wrong with leftist ideology that she can put her finger on that she actually dislikes. Nothing substantive. It's just that leftists are not liberals. It's like when Churchill complained about how the Irish have no desire to be English. Well, that's because they're not English. Why would they want to be English? Like,
it's 2012, but a lot of people felt that the Affordable Care Act was too communist.
No, I mean, not really. Actually, that was very widely represented in the media. But the polling was that it did not. The polling showed that people overwhelmingly who didn't like it felt that it did not go far enough because it left the insurance companies in complete control of healthcare. Like,
so, I mean, maybe that's different now.
I think it might.
I think it might be.
But it's also, I mean, Medicare for All is kind of old news to people now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I mean, it's been since the 1990s that majorities have said they want single payer when they're asked what their preference for how healthcare should be delivered is. But like, not knowing that seems to be a matter of honor for some people. Okay, and I just noticed the time. It is time to wrap up. Thanks to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And if you enjoyed the stream and would like to support my project, here's some links on how you can do that, including like just signal boosting and donations and everything like that. You know, all support is very much appreciated. And in any case, I will be back at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time this coming Friday. And thanks again, River Rune, for Stabby Elmo. I'm going to have to think about how I use that in thumbnails going forward.